Why did she stand so still when everyone else was trying to prove they belonged? The hangar was a living echo chamber, metal, sweat, nerves. The sound of boots and barked orders clashed against the concrete like clashing cymbals. Look alive, sweetheart. This isn't yoga. Captain Marcus Keller's voice cracked through the space with that sharp authority reserved for men who enjoyed their echo too much. This is where soldiers bleed. Laughter rolled weakly through the circle of trainees. It wasn't joy, it was survival instinct. No one wanted to be next in the crosshairs of Keller's humor. Around him, a mixed ring of Army Rangers, Marines, and one Navy transfer stood rigid. Petty Officer First Class Alina Shade Morales didn't move, didn't flinch, didn't even blink. That stillness wasn't arrogance, it was armor. Keller saw it as defiance. His smile bent at the edges, not out of amusement but irritation. The way she stood, boots perfectly aligned, shoulders back, hands at her sides, made him feel like the performance wasn't his anymore. "See that," he said to the others. "That's Navy calm, pretty until it cracks." No one laughed this time. The silence in that hangar turned heavy enough to break ribs. From above, in the glass-paneled observation booth, Colonel Robert Vance of the Marine Corps watched, hands folded behind his back. He'd seen this kind of calm before. Helmand, Kandahar, Fallujah. The ones who said nothing were the ones you never underestimated. Keller circled her like a dog testing the limits of its leash. "You're a long way from your ocean, petty officer. This isn't some sealed demo reel. It's a Ranger kill house." Her voice came soft, perfectly measured. "Understood, sir." That tone, steady, unshaken, irritated him more than any insult could have. "Good," Keller said. "Then you'll be my example." He grabbed her wrist in a blur of motion, twisting into a textbook takedown. The kind of move meant to impress recruits, not break bones, but Keller added a knee for good measure. The hit landed high on her back with a smack that made the air gasp. For a second, nothing. Then, without using her hands, Morales rose, one smooth motion. She brushed the dust from her sleeve with two slow pats, then met his eyes. No rage, no fear, just silence so deep it felt like judgment. Keller looked away first. Even from the booth, Vance saw the power shift. He leaned closer to the glass, muttering under his breath, "Calm like that isn't learned, it's earned." "Tomorrow," Keller barked, regaining his fake command. "Kill House 4, you're on point." The reaction from the others was immediate. A ripple through the ranks. Point meant suicide, the first through the door, first to die, first to prove they were expendable. Morales didn't argue, didn't even blink. "Yes, sir." When she turned to leave, her voice brushed the air one last time, calm but heavy enough to leave a mark. "Permission to prepare." Keller waved her off, pretending it hadn't stung. But everyone saw the crack. Vance saw more, the faint shadow behind her composure, the quiet tremor before a storm. When she stepped through the hangar doors, the sunset sliced her silhouette in two, half in light, half in fire. Keller muttered, "That calm won't last 10 seconds inside a kill house." Vance's reply came only to himself. "Then you've never met someone who's already survived worse." Outside, wind slapped the metal doors. A hollow clang that echoed like a warning no one could translate. By morning, the storm had arrived. Rain hissed across Camp Blackwood, a cold rhythm against tin roofs. Inside the prep bay, Morales worked alone. Everything laid out with surgical precision. Rifle, breacher, M4. Every movement was quiet, deliberate, reverent. Her gear wasn't just equipment, it was ritual. Across the bay, Keller watched her from the corner like a wolf eyeing prey. He wanted her to fail, needed her to. "Alpha Team," he barked. "Kill House 4. 11 hostiles, 1 hostage. Full sim rounds. Morales, your point." She gave a single nod. "Understood." Up in the booth, Colonel Vance leaned forward. "Screen 3, he told the technician. "Helmet feed, I want her eyes." The monitor flickered. Morales filled the screen. Steady hands, calm breath, eyes like water before the drop. She's too calm, the tech whispered. No one's calm without reason, Vance replied. Down below, Keller snapped his fingers. Stack up on me. The team formed tight, shoulders touching, breath sinking. Morale's at the front. The rain outside softened into a whisper as silence took its place. 3-2. The blast punched the air. The door blew open. Go, go, go. They surged into smoke. Morales waited half a beat, just long enough to listen, to feel the echo of the breach. Then she moved, fluid, precise, not running but gliding. Her rifle cracked once, twice. 2 hostiles down before anyone else crossed the threshold. Morales, you're off script, Keller barked. She didn't answer. Through the booth feed, her view carved through the maze, room after room, silent and deadly. She didn't hesitate. She didn't flinch. She was already 2 rooms ahead of her team. She's not reacting, the tech said. No, Vance murmured. She's remembering. Every movement was memory. Every pivot, every glance down a hallway, too familiar to be new. The rest of Alpha stumbled behind her shadow. Their boots were noise. Her silence was control. Morales's voice finally crackled through comms. Sector 1 clear, moving 2. She paused at the corner, eyes narrowing. A faint shimmer across the floor caught the light, too symmetrical to be random. She crouched, tracing it with her glove. A tripline, almost invisible. Her voice came steady, trap. The tech leaned closer to his screen. Colonel, that's an M84 canister. Orange survey tape, figure 8 knot. Vance's brow furrowed. Record it, that knot pattern doesn't belong in this sim. She cut the line, caught the canister midair and set it aside. Calm, deliberate. Trap neutralized, she said softly. Then moved on. The rest of the team arrived seconds later, panting, confused, following her cleared path. Every room she'd passed was marked with red dots, center mass, all perfect. Keller's command started to sound smaller. Stay tight, Morales, wait for the... She was gone. Through the monitors, Vance watched her ghost through corridors. Smooth, efficient, unreadable. A shotgun blast tore through the next room. Real sound, not simulation. Morales pivoted, dropped low, fired twice. The shooter folded mid-step. Keller froze. The sound of that shot wasn't right, too heavy. That didn't sound like a sim round, the tech whispered. Morales bent, lifted a casing, rolled it between her fingers. Real brass. She said nothing, just set it down like evidence. Keep rolling, Vance ordered, jaw tight. Morales advanced through the smoke. Her breathing was slow, controlled. Another room cleared, another silence claimed. 46 seconds later, her voice returned through static. House clear. The monitor's data scrolled across the bottom. 11 hostiles neutralized, 0 civilians, 0 friendlies, time 0046. That's impossible, the tech said. No, Vance murmured. That's elite standard, tier 1 compact path. Keller tore off his headset. No one runs that clean, not her, not anyone. On the screen, Morales stood in the last room. Still. No victory pose, no celebration, just quiet. Then her feed glitched. Static, a burst of distorted audio, then words. You still remember the house we built, shade. Her head turned slightly, as if listening to a ghost. The voice was low, male, familiar, buried somewhere deep in her past. Colonel, the tech said, that's not base comms, that's an old SEAL frequency, pre-28 series. Vance's eyes narrowed. That code hadn't been active in years. On screen, Morales didn't move. The static hissed louder, bleeding through the booth, then whiteout. When the feed returned, she was gone. Keller's voice cracked through the mic. Where Morales? No response, only her breathing steady, distant. She's already 3 rooms ahead, the tech said. Vance leaned forward. No, he said quietly. She's not ahead, she's somewhere else. The monitors flickered again, image cutting between corridors, fragments of movement, muzzle flashes frozen in time. The voice came again, faint, like a memory whispering through static. "Welcome back to the kill house." Then silence. Morale stood alone in the wreckage of foam walls and gunpowder residue, breathing steady, the weight of that voice pressing down on her chest like an old wound reopening. She closed her eyes. That voice, she knew it. And whatever it meant, it wasn't finished. What do you do when a voice from the dead calls you by name? Morales didn't move, didn't breathe for a full 5 seconds. The silence inside the kill house was thicker than the smoke. The word shade still echoed in her helmet like a ghost that refused to fade. The comms hissed softly. Keller's voice came through, taut, defensive. "Morales, report." She reached up, clicked her mic twice, acknowledgement without speech, and began reloading. Brass clicked into place, calm, deliberate, mechanical. Her heartbeat slowed until it matched the rain hammering the roof above. In the booth, Colonel Vance stood over the monitors. "Freeze frame. Rewind 3 seconds before the whiteout." The text scrubbed back. The static shimmered into a faint outline, an overlay signal piggybacking on her feed. Vance stared. "That's not random interference. Someone injected the channel." Keller's face appeared on another screen, sweating, defensive. "Sir, this was a clean sim. No live encryption, no crossfeed. That shouldn't even be possible." Vance ignored him. His gaze stayed on the frozen image of Morales, her face half-lit, half-shadowed inside the visor. "Pull her vitals from the feed." "Heart rate 82, the text said quietly. "Unchanged since breach." Vance exhaled through his nose. She's either a machine, or she's remembering something that keeps her steady. Down below, Morales crouched beside the shotgun casing she'd picked up earlier. The weight of it was wrong, too heavy. No blue mark, real brass. She slid it into her pocket, the motion small, almost intimate, like pocketing a secret. "Alpha Team," Keller barked, forcing command back into his tone. "Regroup, house is clear." No one moved. They'd all heard the voice on the open channel. "Now." Boots shuffled. Training reflex fought confusion. Morales rose slowly, scanning the walls, her eyes lingering on the mirror where her reflection had stared back before the feed cut out. When she finally spoke, her voice carried a note that wasn't in the script. "Recommend lockdown on Kill House 4, possible breach of SIM protocol." Keller sneered. "You think someone hacked the SIM just to spook you?" She met his eyes through the visor. "I think someone left a live round inside a training lane, sir." That shut him up. Vance's voice came through the overhead speaker. Calm, controlled. "Secure the site. No one leaves the facility. Morales, stay put." "Aye, sir." The rain outside turned heavier, drumming against the tin like distant artillery. By the time the base lockdown siren began its slow wail, the hangar had transformed from a training bay into a crime scene. Yellow strobes painted everyone in sickness-colored light. Medics checked for injuries no one had taken. The tech crew ran diagnostics on feeds that refused to tell the same story twice. Morales stripped off her helmet, her hair clinging to her forehead. Her eyes were clear, focused, but something under the surface flickered. Memory. Vance descended from the booth, boots echoing across the floor. He walked like a man who'd carried too many secrets and knew when another one had just been born. "Petty Officer Morales," he said, stopping in front of her. "You did well, but I need to ask, what did you hear?" She hesitated, not because she didn't know, but because saying it out loud would make it real. "A voice, sir, male, familiar." "Name?" She shook her head. "It said, 'Welcome back to the kill house.' Then, 'You still remember the house we built.'" The words left her lips like a confession. The room went still. Vance's eyes sharpened. "The house we built," he repeated quietly. Keller scoffed. "Probably some tech feedback, you know how these sims." Vance cut him off with a single look. "Not now." He turned back to Morales. Have you ever served with a Lieutenant Morgan E. SEAL Team 7? Her expression didn't change, but something behind her eyes fractured. Yes, sir, she said finally. 3 tour. Last I heard he was KIA 2 years ago. Vance nodded once, almost to himself. That's what the file says. The way he said file made the air colder. Keller looked between them, lost. You think this is connected to a dead SEAL? I think, Vance said, we just tripped over something that wasn't meant to be found. He gestured to the techs. Pull every log from the prop cage, the manifest, and the supervisor console. I want badge traces, override keys, power fluctuations, everything. Morales watched silently as the room moved around her. Her hands were still, but her mind was spinning. Morgan's voice. She hadn't heard it since the night his unit vanished off comms in the desert. Operation Slate Echo, classified. 2 survivors recovered. Morgan wasn't one of them. But ghosts didn't talk, not unless someone wanted them to. She turned away, eyes catching on the faint scorch mark near the breech door. A live shell could do that. She crouched, brushing a finger through the blackened paint. It smeared. Fresh. Someone had loaded that shotgun with real ammunition. On purpose. She felt a chill run down her spine, not from fear but from recognition. Whoever had done this wasn't just targeting Keller's ego. They were sending a message. To her. Above, Vance's voice echoed through the hangar again. All trainees dismissed. Command staff remain. Boots scraped. Conversations hushed. The room thinned until only Keller, Morales, and 2 tech officers remained. Report, Vance ordered. Sir, the younger tech said, pale. Prop table shows a clean print, no anomalies. But the demolition cage log gets off. There's a duplicate supervisor badge clearance at 732. Clone signature. Vance's jaw tightened. Whose ID? The tech swallowed. Captain Keller. The words hit the air like a hammer. Keller's voice went high. What? That's impossible. I was in the briefing at 0730. Morales didn't move. She just looked at him, steady, assessing. Not accusing yet, but measuring what kind of man panics under pressure. Vance folded his hands behind his back. Badges don't clone themselves, Captain. Either someone spoofed your clearance, or someone close to you had access to it. Sir, Save it, we'll find out soon enough. A crackle of static interrupted them. The overhead speakers came alive for a split second, carrying a whisper that slid down everyone's spine. You still take the hinge first, don't you, Shade? Then silence. Morales froze, her breath hitched. That phrase, take the hinge, it wasn't random. It was what Morgan used to say during live ops, a private code between them. He'd take the hinge, she'd clear the angle. Her knuckles went white. Vance caught it immediately. You recognize that voice. She didn't answer. Keller stepped back like he'd seen enough. Okay, I'm done being the bad guy in someone else's ghost story. I didn't set up your SEAL princess, Colonel. Someone's screwing with the system, and I'm not taking the fall. Vance turned toward him, eyes cold. Captain, you were in charge of the manifest. Your ID accessed both the cage and the lane breakers. Until we prove otherwise, you're not dismissed. Keller's jaw flexed, but he didn't argue. Not out loud. Morales's mind drifted to Morgan again, the last time she'd seen him alive. A safe house outside Basra, a dust-filled night, the smell of oil and sweat and fear. He said, if they ever tell you I'm gone, don't believe it right away. She hadn't understood then. Now maybe she did. The base lights flickered. For a moment, every monitor in the hangar went dark. Then white text began scrolling across the black screens, slow and deliberate. Welcome back to the kill house. Vance drew his sidearm instinctively. Shut that feed down. The tech's hands flew across the console. Sir, it's not coming from internal servers. It's broadcasting from inside the local net. Origin, Hangar 4. They all turned as one. The kill house doors. The same steel doors Morales had breached less than an hour ago slammed shut with a metallic thud. Locks engaged. The sound was too deliberate to be mechanical failure. The emergency strobes kicked on, bathing the room in pools of red. "Containment," Morales said quietly. "What?" Keller barked. "This isn't a glitch," she said. "They sealed us in." The air changed, thicker, metallic charged. Somewhere behind the wall, a generator hummed to life. A faint ticking joined it, steady, deliberate. Vance moved first, scanning for the source. "Everyone stay sharp." Morales crossed to the side panel, yanked it open. Two stun grenades blinked green, wired to a small transmitter, jury-rigged but functional. "They turned the panel into a trap," she murmured. "Timers active." "Disarm it," Vance ordered. She nodded, slicing through the lead wires with the calm precision of someone who'd done this too many times. Sparks kissed her gloves. The ticking stopped. For a heartbeat, the world held its breath. Then a new sound filled the space: footsteps, slow, heavy, from beyond the far doorway. A silhouette appeared through the haze, black tactical gear, suppressed M4 raised, face hidden behind a balaclava. The patch on his sleeve caught the red light. Naval Special Warfare. Keller's voice cracked. "Who the hell?" "Don't move," Vance barked. The figure stepped closer, weapon steady, and then he spoke. "Shade, stand down." The voice cut through Morales like shrapnel. Her rifle came up, eyes narrowing behind the visor. "Morgan." The man hesitated, just long enough for her to know the truth. He lowered his weapon slightly. "Paper said I was dead. Paper kept me useful." Vance raised his pistol. "Identify yourself." Morgan's tone didn't waver. "We make ghosts when we need them to work in the dark." For a fraction of a second, time stretched. 3 soldiers, 3 guns, 3 truths colliding in the same breath. Then the world snapped. A shot, muzzle flash. The sound swallowed by suppressors. Morgan's body folded, falling to the concrete with a dull thud. Vance's arm still extended, smoke curling from his sidearm. Morales dropped to her knees beside the body, tearing off the mask. The face beneath was older, gaunt, eyes wet with something between pain and relief. The dog tag read E. Morgan, SEAL Team 7. She swallowed hard, whispering, "They said you were gone." His lips moved once, no sound, then stillness. Vance holstered his weapon. He aimed to kill. I had no choice. Morales's fingers brushed against the inside of Morgan's vest. A folded note, brittle with time. She opened it. The ink was faded but legible. "Administratively, KIA-2 facilitate clandestine redeployment. Status: active black asset." The words hit like a round to the chest. She looked up, eyes burning. "Sir, he wasn't rogue, he was assigned." Vance's expression hardened. "Assigned by who?" The lights flickered again. On every monitor, new text began to scroll. "Some ghosts don't stay buried." Outside, thunder rolled over Camp Blackwood. Morales closed her fist around Morgan's tag. The rain began to pour harder, each drop sounding like another truth breaking loose from the dark. How many ghosts could a system hide before it began to haunt itself? Rain hammered the tin roof, a dull percussion over the ringing silence that followed Morgan's final breath. The red strobe still pulsed across the hangar, painting everyone in flashes of guilt. Colonel Vance stood still, sidearm low, eyes unreadable. Keller leaned against a crate, breathing fast, as if the air itself had turned hostile. Elena Morales stayed kneeling. Her gloves were slick with rainwater and blood she refused to believe was real. Morgan's dog tag pressed cold against her palm, proof that death could be paperwork when someone powerful signed it that way. No one spoke for a long time. Finally, Vance's voice broke through. "We secure the scene. Every piece of gear, every casing, every bite of footage. Nothing leaves this hangar." Keller swallowed. "Sir, we just shot a classified asset inside a training facility. That's not a cleanup, that's a containment, Vance finished. His tone carried finality. Morales rose slowly. Her knees ached, her throat dry. The weight in her chest wasn't grief, it was fury disguised as discipline. She turned the dog tag over again. The small engraved letters E. Morgan, SEAL Team 7 stared back like a forgotten truth. She looked at Vance. Sir, permission to review the base comm archives. If he was still active, there'll be encrypted bursts, heartbeat pings, shadow logs, something. Vance hesitated. You think someone reactivated him off the books? I think, she said softly, someone never deactivated him. The colonel's eyes flicked toward the tech station. Get me those comm logs, and lock every terminal out of external relay. As the tech scrambled, Keller moved closer, voice low. You know what this means, right? If he was a black asset, there's no record, no jurisdiction. We start pulling at this thread, and it won't stop until it reaches someone with a flag on their desk. Morales didn't look at him. Then they'll hear us coming. Keller let out a dry laugh. You Navy types really believe in redemption arcs, huh? She glanced at him then, steady, sharp. You believe in hiding behind procedure. Everyone's got faith in something. Before Keller could answer, the main monitor flickered again. The white text returned, scrolling slowly across the screen. Welcome back, Shade. You were never supposed to see the paper. The tech cursed under his breath. Sir, signal's local. Origin point keeps shifting, like it's bouncing through our own routers. Trace it, Vance ordered. Morales's gaze locked on the screen, heart thudding once hard. Whoever was doing this wasn't trying to hide, they were taunting. Then the feed glitched to a grainy video, static first, then a face, half-lit, recorded through a mask, male, calm, deliberate. You don't know me, the voice said, distorted through digital rot. But I know what you were built for. Shade, you were supposed to die in the house too. Paper just forgot to sign your name. Morales felt her stomach tighten. The video cut to black. Vance exhaled slow. Pull that feed offline. The tech hesitated. Sir, we can't. It's not streaming in. It's embedded in our local backup drive. It's been there for days. Keller turned toward Morales. Days? You've been on base less than 48 hours. Vance stepped closer to the console, his voice quiet. Someone planned this before she even arrived. Morales stared at the black screen. For the first time since the hangar incident began, a sliver of doubt flickered behind her composure. How far back did this go? Who had known she'd be here? The lights overhead buzzed, then steadied. Outside, the storm softened to a whisper. The quiet that followed was worse than the noise. Colonel, one of the techs said suddenly. Sir, we found a duplicate network signature buried in the kill house router. It's tagged under a ghost admin credential. Cross-checked to Internal Security Division. Vance's expression didn't change, but his eyes did. The smallest tightening, like a man recognizing his own shadow. That's command level. Morales folded her arms. Someone on the inside buried a ghost in your own walls, sir. You think they'll let you trace it? He gave her a thin smile. We'll see how brave ghosts really are when you turn on the lights. Hours blurred. By 2100, the hangar smelled of wet steel and solder. The techs had cracked open every terminal, cables snaking across the floor. The only constant sound was the rhythmic clack of rain against corrugated metal. Morales stood at a side table, helmet off, her hair damp, eyes focused on Morgan's vest laid out like an autopsy. Each pocket turned inside out, each tag photographed. Nothing explained why he'd been here. She found the small, folded slip of paper she'd missed before, a line scrawled in Morgan's rough handwriting. If you're reading this, Shade, they used me to test the doors. Don't let them close on you. She felt the air leave her lungs. Across the room, Keller kicked a crate. This is insane. We're standing on a classified corpse and HQ's going to hang us before morning. Vance didn't look up. If HQ wanted us dead, they'd have done it cleaner. He motioned toward Morales. "Keep reading." She unfolded the rest of the note. Coordinates. A single line of numbers followed by a phrase, Black Ledger Camp Meridian. She looked up. "That's 80 miles east, decommissioned training site." Keller frowned. Meridian, been shut down for years. Used for drone trials back in the early 2000s. "Or cover stories," Vance said. Morales slid the note into her pocket. If the ghost feed came from inside, someone's relaying through old infrastructure. Meridian's the closest site with fiber overlap. "You're suggesting we leave base," Keller said, "after a shooting during lockdown." "I'm suggesting," Morales replied, "we follow the only breadcrumb Morgan left." Vance looked between them, the corners of his eyes shadowed by fatigue. Then he nodded once. "We go quiet, off record. No manifests, no comms. Keller, you drive. Morales, you navigate." Keller stared. "You're serious?" "Deadly," Vance said. By midnight, the storm had turned into mist. The black Humvee rolled through the perimeter gate, its lights off, engine muffled. The base guards didn't look up. They'd been told this was an internal transfer. Vance's clearance made sure no one asked questions. The road stretched ahead like a ribbon of wet asphalt cutting through pine and fog. For the first time, Morales spoke without protocol. "Sir, why are you helping me?" Vance's eyes stayed on the darkness beyond the windshield. "Because I've seen this pattern before. When men die on paper, it's never an accident. And the ones who make those deaths, they never like witnesses." She turned to the window, watching the rain streak past. "Morgan used to say that ghosts aren't the ones we bury. They're the ones we keep alive so they can't speak." Keller snorted softly. "Poetic." "True," she said. Silence settled again. Only the hum of the tires and the occasional sigh of wind through trees. When they reached the Meridian gate, the fence loomed rusted and sagging. The sign read, "Restricted Area DCOMMISSIONED," a lie so confident it felt like a dare. Vance killed the engine. "Lights off, we walk from here." The air smelled of wet iron and pine needles. Their boots sank into mud as they moved along the perimeter. Morales's flashlight cut through fog, catching faded lettering on a bunker door. "Facility 9A," she whispered, "still drawing power." Keller looked skeptical. "Power from where? The grid's dead out here." Vance brushed mud from an old keypad. "Unless it's drawing from something that never disconnected." He keyed in a bypass code. The panel flickered green. Inside, the air was cold, dry, and humming. Dust floated in the beam of their lights. Rows of computer racks blinked faintly, as though the place had been waiting. Morales moved first, tracing a cable to a server tower still warm to the touch. "Sir, these aren't training systems. These are data mirrors, military personnel archives." "Ghost registry," Vance muttered. On the central monitor, a login prompt blinked. Morales typed Morgan, E-Seal 7. The screen froze, then opened a list of names. Hundreds. Each line carried a tag. Administratively KIA, active black asset. Her breath caught. Keller took a step closer. Jesus, they turned half the Tier 1 pipeline into dead men walking. Files scrolled dates, code names, mission markers. Every ghost matched a disappearance the public had written off. Vance's face hardened. "Black Ledger," he whispered, "an entire command structure that doesn't exist." Morales leaned in, scrolling to the bottom. A final entry, timestamped 24 hours ago. Shade Morales, pending activation. The room tilted. Her fingers froze above the keyboard. They were going to add me. Keller took a step back. "What the hell does that mean?" Vance's voice dropped to a growl. "It means the moment you died in that kill house, Shade Morales would have joined the ghosts. Another asset for whoever runs this." Her heartbeat thudded in her ears. "They tried to kill me." "No," Vance said quietly. "They tried to recruit you." Before she could answer, a low hum filled the room. The lights dimmed, replaced by red emergency glow. A recorded voice broke through the static overhead. Unauthorized access detected. Facility lockdown engaged. Metal shutters slammed over the exits. Keller cursed, drawing his weapon. We tripped something. Morales spun back to the monitor. A single message appeared across the screen in stark white letters. Welcome to the Ledger, Shade. You were always supposed to be here. The speakers crackled again. Then came the voice, smooth, calm, and impossibly familiar. Vance's jaw clenched. Morales froze. You've come a long way just to find your own name on the list. Morgan's voice. But it couldn't be. The monitors flickered. His face appeared again, this time clearer, filmed before he'd ever set foot in the kill house. Shade, the recording said, if you're watching this, then the ledger's open. Don't let them erase you. Don't let them finish what they started. The image distorted, then burned to white. The hum deepened. Somewhere behind the walls, something mechanical began to spin up. Vance turned toward Morales. They know we're here. Keller stepped to the door, slamming his shoulder against the metal. We're sealed in. Morales's mind raced. Every instinct screamed to move, to act, to survive. But beneath the adrenaline, a single truth pulsed steady and cruel. Morgan hadn't been warning her to run. He'd been warning her to finish what he couldn't. The air trembled as the first deep boom echoed through the bunker. Not thunder this time, something closer, heavier. Something waking up. The floor vibrated first, a slow, heavy tremor that felt like the earth remembering how to breathe. The red lights along the ceiling flickered in rhythm with the hum building beneath them. Keller backed away from the door, weapon up, eyes darting. That's not backup power. Vance steadied his stance. It's an awakening protocol, the bunker's coming online. Morales scanned the rows of dormant servers. The glow in their cores brightened one by one, a rolling wave of light crawling down the hall. Fans spun to life. The air filled with the low growl of hidden machines finally stretching after years of silence. She whispered, almost to herself. They left the whole place sleeping until someone said my name. Vance looked at her. The ledger was never offline. It was waiting for a trigger. A monitor sparked to life beside them, throwing blue light across their faces. Lines of code scrolled faster than the eye could follow. Then the screen cleared, leaving only a single file directory, Shade Morales active. Her pulse skipped. Keller swore under his breath. What the hell kind of system registers people like software? Vance moved closer to the screen, his reflection fractured in its glow. One that doesn't see soldiers, only assets. Morales reached out, fingers hovering above the keyboard. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. She pressed enter. The screen flooded with data, missions, transcripts, video fragments, field reports, all tagged with her name. Ops she'd served on. Others she'd never even heard of. Her face appeared in photos she didn't remember being taken. Then deeper in the files she saw Morgan. Every operation he'd led, every date after his supposed death. Each marked authorized by unknown. The last entry was timestamped 2 hours before his body hit the kill house floor. Morgan objective. Reacquire asset SHD-01 Morales ES status. Pending retrieval. Her voice cracked. He was ordered to bring me back. Vance's jaw flexed. Not kill you, capture you. Keller looked from one to the other. Jesus Christ, they wanted her alive, after everything. Morales stepped back, breath unsteady. Alive but not myself. She could feel the truth knitting itself together, the tripwire, the cloned badge, the live rounds. The kill house hadn't been sabotage. It had been recruitment. They had staged the failure to erase her. The ledger would have logged her death as training accident. Then her new file would open quietly under active black asset. Another ghost in their machine. The servers around them hummed louder, screens filling with new code. A voice replaced the noise, a filtered tone through the overhead speakers. Calm, controlled. Unauthorized access detected, it said, initiating scrub protocol. Vance's eyes went sharp. They're wiping it. Not just the files, Morales said, watching temperature gauges climb. They're purging the drives, burning the evidence. Keller pointed to the far wall where a thick conduit snaked upward. Main line. Manual breaker maybe 30 meters inside that service hall. Go, Vance ordered. Morales with me. They ran, boots pounding through the concrete tunnel. The air grew hotter, thinner. Sparks snapped from the conduits overhead. Somewhere deep in the bunker, a heavy fan kicked into overdrive. Keller reached the breaker first and ripped the cover free. You've got to be kidding. This thing's analog. Then pull it. He grabbed the lever, strained, muscles shaking. The metal shrieked but didn't move. It's locked. Vance stepped forward, drew his pistol, and fired twice at the hinge. The lever jolted free. Keller yanked it down. The lights died. The hum fell away into a single echoing thud. For a heartbeat, the world was silent. Then emergency strobes flashed back to life, bathing the tunnel in red. Somewhere behind them, a door slammed shut, an automatic seal. They're isolating sections, Morales said. We've got maybe 5 minutes before they vent this place. Vance turned to her, breathing hard. There's an uplink hub in the command office. We copy what we can, send it out before they burn us out. Keller looked skeptical. And who exactly do we send it to? Everyone above us is the ledger. Vance's reply was dry, almost grim. Then we send it somewhere they can't delete it. Morales understood instantly. Public net. He nodded, a truth that survives only if too many eyes see it. They reached the command office at a dead sprint. Dust swirled in their wake. Banks of screens glowed faintly, waiting. Morales sat at the terminal, hands flying across the keyboard. Come on, come on. She bypassed local firewalls, rerouted through dormant comm satellites. Static filled the speakers, then a connection tone. Keller hovered at her shoulder. You sure this doesn't just paint a target on our backs? She didn't look up. We already are the target. The data poured upward, streams of encrypted packets racing out of the bunker into the void. She watched the percentage climb, 10, 20, 30. Vance checked his watch, 2 minutes before scrub protocols go active. The floor rumbled again. Keller turned toward the corridor, weapon raised. Movement. Figures appeared in the strobe light, 3, maybe 4, moving in formation. Black uniforms, no insignia, suppressed rifles. Morales ducked behind a console, hand on her sidearm. They sent retrieval. Vance whispered, hold until they're close. The first operator crossed the threshold. Morales squeezed off 2 rounds. The man dropped, armor clattering against the floor. The others opened fire, bullets tearing through glass and steel. Keller returned fire, cursing. This isn't containment, they're here to erase us. Vance grabbed the comm mic. Morales finished the upload. She turned back to the terminal. 72%, 84%, 91%. One of the intruders vaulted the console. She caught him midair with a short burst. He crumpled without a sound. The last gunman fled down the corridor, his shadow stretching long in the flashing red. Done, she shouted. Data's out. Vance nodded once. Good, now we leave. But the computer disagreed. The monitor glowed white, a new message crawling across it. Transmission intercepted. Trace returning. Morales stared at the line, disbelief twisting into dread. They rerouted the feed. Keller frowned. To where? Her voice dropped to a whisper. Here. The main screen blinked again, resolving into a live feed, 3 heat signatures in the command office. Them. The system was watching, recording, learning. Vance raised his weapon and fired into the monitor, shattering it. Sparks showered across the floor. Move, he barked. They sprinted back through the tunnel toward the surface exit. The red strobes blurred. Smoke filled the air. Somewhere behind them, a blast door began to grind shut. Morales was last through. She dove under the closing slab, rolled, and came up running. The metal slammed down behind her with a sound like the end of a chapter. Outside, night had broken into fragments of fog and moonlight. The rain had stopped. The air smelled of ozone and rust. Vance bent over, hands on knees. Did the upload finish enough? Morales checked the portable drive still humming in her vest pocket. Partial dump, maybe half, it's something. Keller leaned against the fence, staring into the dark. Half a ghost story isn't proof. No, she said, voice low, but it's a beginning. For the first time that night, Vance smiled, a small, tired curve that didn't reach his eyes. You think the world cares about beginnings. They only listen when blood hits the floor. Morales looked down at her gloves, at the faint stain that wasn't gone no matter how much rain had fallen. Then we make them listen. Lightning flashed across the valley, illuminating the bunker entrance below. For a second, she thought she saw movement inside, shadows shifting behind the shattered door. Then darkness returned. She turned to Keller. We need transport. Closest safe route is the service road east, he said. If command's tracking us, we'll have maybe an hour before they triangulate. Then we don't stop, Vance said. We reach someone who can still see straight if anyone's left. They started moving, 3 silhouettes against the pale fog. Every step echoed too loud, too fragile. As they reached the ridge, Morales looked back one last time. The bunker's red lights still pulsed faintly under the earth, like a heartbeat refusing to die. Keller noticed her glance. You really think Morgan's message was warning, not bait? She answered without slowing. He died trying to tell me the difference doesn't matter. Either way, someone was waiting for me to open that door. Vance adjusted his pack. Then we find out who built it. The road curved ahead, swallowed by forest. Their breath steamed in the cold air. Somewhere behind them, a distant explosion rolled through the hills, the sound of the facility finally consuming itself. The flash painted the treeline white. For an instant, it looked like dawn. Morales didn't turn back. She kept walking, each step measured, deliberate. The dog tag in her pocket tapped against her thigh with every stride, a small metallic heartbeat reminding her what silence could cost. Vance fell in beside her. You understand what we just did, don't you? We declared war on our own. She nodded once, then let it be the kind of war that ends with truth. Keller gave a tired laugh. That's the most dangerous kind. The wind shifted, carrying the smell of burned circuitry and rain. Morales looked up at the night sky, dark and endless, and felt something unfamiliar rise in her chest. Not victory, not relief. Resolve. Behind her eyelids flashed Morgan's voice one last time, a phantom whisper that seemed to come from the stars themselves. Don't let them close the doors, shade. She opened her eyes and kept walking. The road stretched on, long and uncertain. But the doors behind her, they would never close again. When systems built on secrets start to crack, the noise they make isn't thunder. It's silence, drawn out, deliberate, like the world holding its breath. 3 days after the Meridian explosion, silence was all that followed them. Morales sat in the back of an unmarked van, engine idling beneath a crumbling overpass. The rain had found them again, tapping the roof like a patient reminder. Keller sat up front, scanning the road through cracked glass. Vance leaned over a tablet patched to a field antenna, eyes hollow from nights without sleep. No one spoke. The hum of static on the comm line filled the air like nervous breathing. Finally, Keller muttered, "You sure no one's tracking this signal?" Vance didn't look up. We're on a ghost channel, buried frequency, pre-drone era. Only reason it still works is because everyone forgot it exists. Yeah, well, Keller said. That's what they said about ghosts before they started shooting at us. Morales looked out the window. The forest beyond the highway was gray and soaked, trees bending under the storm's weight. In the reflection, her eyes looked older, like the kind that have seen too much truth. She broke the silence. Any word from the upload? Vance shook his head. Half the data made it out before the trace hit. Then it scattered, some to encrypted archives, some to open net. Bits are floating in the wild, fragments the ledger can't fully kill. Fragments, Keller echoed. That's comforting. We risked our lives for digital confetti. Morales turned toward him, voice even. Fragments can build patterns. Patterns can prove intent. Vance set the tablet down. She's right. Someone's already chasing the pieces. Two independent networks mirrored parts of the dump, civilians, probably hackers. If they stitch it together, the whole world sees the black ledger. Keller gave a bitter laugh. If we live long enough to see it. The colonel rubbed his temples. We will, but we move smart. There's a safe house in Ridgeport, cold storage unit, ex-Marine front. We hold there until the net stabilizes. Then what? Keller asked. Then, Vance said quietly, we decide if truth is worth the cost. Ridgeport was a town that forgot it was still standing. Empty diners, rusted signage, neon flickers that buzzed with ghosts of old commerce. They parked behind a warehouse that smelled of diesel and rain. Inside, the floor was concrete, the walls lined with old ammunition crates turned into furniture. Morales took first watch. She stood near the cracked loading door, staring through slats at the wet street outside. Every passing car sounded like memory trying to sneak up behind her. She reached into her pocket and pulled out Morgan's dog tag. The metal felt cold, steady, real. For 3 days she hadn't taken it off, even when she slept. Vance approached quietly, 2 cups of coffee in hand. You ever sleep? Not since the Kill House. He handed her a cup. It doesn't get easier. She sipped, grimaced. That's because this isn't coffee, it's regret in liquid form. That almost drew a smile from him, almost. They stood in silence for a while, watching rain streak the asphalt. Vance finally said, you and Morgan, you were close. Morales nodded once. He taught me control, said emotion gets soldiers killed. Seems you both forgot that. She looked at him. No, sir, we learned it too well. Emotion's not the enemy, it's proof we're still human. Vance studied her face, calm, unreadable, yet burning underneath. You remind me of the ones who don't come home until they decide why they left. Before she could answer, Keller's voice cut from the corner. Colonel, you'll want to see this. They crossed to the terminal, rigged on an old crate. Keller had patched it into a stolen sat feed. The screen glowed dim blue, text scrolling across a civilian news wire. Anonymous leak exposes classified military shadow registry. Dozens of names listed as deceased found active in covert operations. Morales leaned in, the words blurred as her pulse spiked. Vance exhaled slowly, the ledger's out. Keller frowned, only partial list, but enough to start a storm. Vance's gaze stayed on the screen. Once the public sees what we did to our own, command can't bury it. They'll scramble, rewrite, deny, but the narrative's cracked. Morales whispered, and Morgan's ghost finally speaks. That night the safe house felt smaller. The world outside was changing, but not fast enough to save them. Around midnight, Keller's motion sensor tripped. 3 blips, north wall. Company, he hissed. Vance grabbed his rifle, motioned low. Positions. Morales crouched behind a stack of crates, eyes on the door. Rain poured harder, masking footsteps. Then metal scraped. Someone testing the latch. She held her breath. The door burst inward. A figure rolled through the frame, suppressed SMG raised. Keller fired first. The intruder dropped. 2 more followed. Muzzle flashes lit the dark like strobe ghosts. Vance moved with precision. 2 shots, 2 bodies down. Silence followed, broken only by the rain's roar. Morales approached cautiously. The men wore black fatigues, no insignia. Their gear was high-grade, ledger issue. She knelt, searching a pocket, found a small data drive sealed in plastic. Keller wiped sweat from his forehead. Tell me that's the evidence we needed. She plugged it into the rig, the screen filled with text, not mission logs, orders. Operation Fallout, neutralize Vance Keller Morales, retrieve all ledger data, engage lethal if necessary. Vance read it once, twice, then looked up. We're not witnesses anymore, we're loose ends. The room felt smaller again. Morales closed the file, jaw tight. Then we move before they send the next wave. Keller leaned against the wall, exhaustion showing through sarcasm. Any idea where exactly? She turned the drive in her hand. If they're killing everyone tied to Meridian, someone on the inside must still be alive long enough to feed us the rest. There was one name missing from the list. Who? Vance asked. She met his eyes. Colonel Robert Vance. He froze. What are you talking about? Keller said. Morales turned the monitor toward them. The list of administratively killed assets scrolled again, hundreds of entries. At the bottom, timestamped 3 days ago. VANCE, Robert H. Status, pending activation. Keller's mouth went dry. You've got to be kidding. Vance's expression didn't move. They planned my death too. Morales nodded slowly. That's why we survived Meridian. They needed you to bring me there. For a long time, no one said a word. Finally, Vance spoke. Then we end it. We find whoever's writing these files, whoever's signing our deaths, and we shut the ledger down for good. Keller gave a dry chuckle. 3 people against a machine that controls black budgets and ghosts. Vance looked at him. Machines die when no one believes their lies anymore. They left Ridgeport before dawn. The road east cut through fog-heavy hills, the kind of terrain that swallowed sound. Morales drove this time. Keller navigated. Vance watched the horizon like a man expecting to see ghosts walk out of it. At a fuel stop, a civilian radio caught their attention. Static first, then a trembling anchor's voice. Unconfirmed reports suggest the recent data leak has triggered multiple investigations into defense subcommittees. Sources claim several high-ranking officers are missing. Keller smirked. Looks like we lit a match. Morales didn't answer. Her focus stayed on the road. Still think truth isn't enough? She finally asked. Vance's voice was low. Truth's never enough. It's what people do with it that matters. She nodded. Then maybe it's time to make them see. By nightfall, they reached an abandoned communications tower overlooking a flooded valley. From here, they could transmit without interception, if they were quick. Morales climbed the rusted ladder, wind slicing across her face. At the top, the sky looked endless, stars hiding behind storm clouds, lightning flashing in distant sheets. She connected the portable drive to the tower's control box, fingers steady despite the cold. The signal meter flickered alive. Below, Vance and Keller stood guard. The air smelled of rain and iron. Her earpiece crackled. Vance's voice, "You're clear to send." She hesitated. The drive in her hand held half the ledger, but enough to bury careers, ruin lives, topple systems built on silence. Then she remembered Morgan's voice, soft in her mind. "Don't let them close the doors, Shade." She pressed send. The bar climbed slow, relentless, unstoppable. At 95%, the tower lights flared. A sharp tone pierced her headset. "Trace detected," Keller yelled. "They found us." A black helicopter crested the ridge, rotors slicing rain, searchlights sweeping the slope. "Morales, move," Vance shouted. She ripped the drive free, clipped it to her belt, and started down. The wind roared like the sky itself was warning her to hurry. Gunfire erupted below, muffled bursts cutting through the storm. Vance returned fire. Keller covered her descent. Halfway down, a round hit the ladder near her hand, sparks flying. She dropped the last 10 feet, landing hard but rolling up fast. "Signal complete," she shouted. "Data's out." Vance nodded, bleeding from a graze on his arm. "Then we've done our part." Keller glanced toward the chopper closing in. "Tell that to them." They ran for the tree line, bullets tearing through mud. The tower behind them exploded in a shower of sparks, the last symbol of silence finally collapsing. They reached the forest, breath ragged, soaked to the bone. The roar of the helicopter faded as it searched the wrong ridge. Vance sank against a tree, exhaling. "We made it." Morales looked up through the canopy, where the clouds split just enough for one star to show. "No," she said softly. "We started it." Keller gave a shaky laugh. "So what now, hero?" She smiled faintly. "Now we see who the ghosts really are." The rain eased into drizzle. Somewhere far off, sirens wailed, cities waking to a truth too big to ignore. Vance closed his eyes, whispering more to himself than to them. Sometimes dignity doesn't speak, it simply acts. Morales slipped Morgan's tag back around her neck. The metal caught the faintest light. In the distance, dawn began to rise through the rain, a dull gray line cutting the horizon in half. 3 silhouettes stood against it, bruised, soaked, alive. And for the first time since the kill house, Alina Shade Morales let herself breathe. The world had finally heard the silence. What happens after you tear the mask off a monster and realize the face underneath is your own? The world didn't explode when the ledger leak hit. It shifted quietly, dangerously, like ice cracking underfoot. 3 days after the upload, the news cycle pulsed like a wounded artery. Anonymous sources, unverified documents, officials denying everything with the same sentence they used to hide the truth. But the names were real, and the faces of soldiers long declared dead began surfacing in fragments across the web. Morales watched it unfold from a safe house tucked into the mountains north of Denver. The cabin smelled of pine and kerosene. The single radio hissed with the weight of the world learning it had ghosts in uniform. Keller sat by the window, rifle across his lap, the butt of a cigarette smoldering between his fingers. "They're calling it a conspiracy theory already," he muttered. "Same playbook every time. Discredit, distract, drown it." Vance stood at the map table, tracing routes with a gloved finger. And while they argue on TV, command hunts the ones who can prove it's real. Morales didn't look up from the laptop balanced on her knees. The glow turned her face pale. "They've started scrubbing identities. Anyone tagged administratively KIA is vanishing from digital records, not just black assets. Civilians too, contractors, analysts, anyone who ever touched the ledger." Keller let the smoke roll out slowly. "So we woke the machine, and now it's erasing itself." "No," she said, "it's rewriting itself, same structure, new ghosts." Vance's eyes lifted. "You're saying the system survived the purge?" "I'm saying it adapted." The colonel exhaled through his nose, a quiet sound full of fatigue. "Then we hit it again before it finishes." Keller gave a short, bitter laugh. "With what, sir? A laptop, a half-dead SEAL, and one ex-ranger's bad aim." Morales finally met his eyes. "With truth, the kind that doesn't need permission." She turned the screen toward them. Lines of code scrolled past, an address buried under layers of proxy firewalls. Every ghost file had a checksum tag leading back to one server, Citrine node. Cross-reference the routing pattern. It sits inside a private facility in Virginia. Officially, it's a cybersecurity training center. Unofficially. Vance finished for her. "It's the heart of the ledger." Keller shook his head. "You really want to walk into Langley's backyard?" Morales closed the laptop, the sound like punctuation. "No, I want to shut the door they've been building for 20